today I'm doing a install. I got a MSD Distributor and a digital 6AL ignition control box and a flamethrower 2 coil. So putting that in on my 66 Impala. It's got a 327 engine. I just put a new camshaft in the engine and haven't broke it in yet, and so naturally, why not throw on a new ignition system too. So going to be installing that today, and hopefully we'll be firing it up by the end of the day. Okay, so I found top dead center for the engine. I also got the box installed here. But the way I found top dead center is a couple different ways to do it. You can go off the valves on the engine, or what I did is I just took the #1 spark plug out. You put your finger completely over top of the spark plug hole, and you just turn the engine over. So it took 2 people because I was turning the pulley here by hand. Had my dad actually put his thumb over the hole, but when you feel the compression and then you see the mark on your harmonic balancer coming over to the 0-degree timing mark, that's when you know you're at top dead center. So I felt it, and I was maybe 2 degrees off, so right back to top dead center, and then we're at 0 degrees top dead center right there. So we can install the distributor, and that way we know where the firing order is starting at. Alright, so I got my coil mounted. It's a flamethrower 2 from Petronics, and then of course the ignition box is mounted. So now I just got to connect up my cable from the ignition controller. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. If you read the instructions, it's got a pretty clear explanation of where each and every wire goes to. So pretty simple. Obviously there's a power and a ground that goes straight to the battery. There's a 12-volt power that goes straight to the ignition. So what I'm going to do is use the previous, I believe there was an HEI distributor on here, so I'll use the 12 volts there. That's on keyed power, and then you have a positive negative lead to the coil there, and then your power to the distributor. So and then there's also a tack wire that comes off. You see that green wire over there, that all connects to the, I believe it's the gray wire on here. So I have a tachometer control. So pretty simple, just gotta wire it all up. Okay, so got my coil wired up. Orange wire goes to the hot side, black wire goes to the negative side. Got my battery terminals wired on. They describe it as the heavy black and the heavy red wires. So these are you got 12 gauge black and red wires. They're a lot bigger than the other black or red wires, so you'll be able to distinguish it pretty easy. Red wire hooks up the power, the keyed power. Gray wire is running inside to the tack, and white wire is waiting to hook up to the distributor. So nearly finished with the ignition control box and coil. So one thing in the instructions is that for engines under 10.5 to 1 compression ratio, it calls for the spark plug gap to be reset to 50 to 60 thousandths. So these I think were already set at 35 thousandths, so quite the difference on the spark plug gap there. But with that multiple spark and the higher, the better coil there, I think it'll be able to handle the extra spark. So I'm gonna gap them a little bit wider, get up to that 50 to 55 thousandths, and go from there. Okay, so basically at this point I'm ready to put the distributor on. I got my springs set, my bushings set, the timing curve that I want for this particular engine, and basically since I have the engine at top dead center, you just drop in the distributor just like that. And now I just look at where the rotor's pointing and base my spark plugs off of that. Okay, so if you're in my situation where you're going to put in a new distributor, break in a camshaft, and you don't really know where your timing advance is set at, basically what you do here is you take your timing advance on the harmonic balancer and set it at 8 degrees, or however much your initial timing you want. Set it at that before top dead center. So I'm going to set mine at the 8-degree mark, and then when I set my cap and rotor here, I'm just going to set that the plug directly on the rotor. So that way that's at 0 degrees there of advance and 8 degrees right here of advance. That will give me the 8 degrees of advance before top dead center. And that way, for the initial startup, I don't have to guess as to how much timing advance I'm giving the engine. I know that I have it set at 8 degrees that way, or really close to at least. So after I dropped in my distributor there, basically what I did was I found the top dead center of after the compression stroke of cylinder 1, and then I took where the distributor rotor was pointing at, and it was pointing right here. And so what I do is I set the harmonic balancer off by 8 degrees backwards, so it'd be 8 degrees set on right on the mark of 8 degrees of advance. I'll show you. And see, here's the line, and this at the edge of the marker here, that's 8 degrees. So we got her set at 8 degrees of advance. I set the rotor straight onto number 1 right there, so that should be set at roughly 8 degrees of initial timing, so that should be pretty good to go. After that, I just put all the plug wires on. Made myself some handy dandy zip tie plug wire separators. When you do that, you just want to make sure that you're keeping the plug wires that fire right next to each other. You keep those away from each other, but that doesn't really, it's not that necessary if you keep them apart from each other, at least this much, but just a little bit better that way. But anyways, that's about it for installing the ignition system. The only other step I have is I'm missing a wire there from the coil to the distributor, and then I just need to fire it up and check timing. So I'd call that install complete. Just I need to put my accessories on before I can start the clean engine, but besides that, we're good to go.